This is the top 10 gold farms of the week. Let us begin. Coming in at number 1, we have the Crimson Whelpling Gold Farm. Located within the wetlands, the Crimson Whelpling averages from anywhere from around about 20 odd thousand to 40 odd thousand gold. This is pretty dang good, as this is an instant respawn gold farm, meaning that if you head to this location on the map, you'll see a load of orcs and or dragonkin all fighting each other. Once you actually take out some of the mobs, they'll actually force respawn, as this is like an ongoing event, so to speak. These are all lootable, and thus you have more chances of getting a hold of the Crimson Whelpling, as it's located specifically within the wetland zone, and it is zone specific. These mobs have anywhere from around about 0.05% to 0.14% for the Crimson Whelpling. This is pretty dang awesome, especially when you have so many mobs per kill coming in and actually just having tons of them to actually slay constantly, and just a nice flow of mobs to actually take out. Coincidentally, you can also do what I'm doing right now and skinning the dragonkin while I take them out with my AoE ability. This means that I can gain more leathers to sell on the auction house, as well as farm for the Crimson Whelpling. This also pairs nicely with an old school transmog gold farm. Depending on your server, these items can value from a small amount to actually a decent amount of gold, depending server specific, obviously. This gold farm is really bog standard and does not require any more explanation than that. Let's go over towards number 2, which is the Coins of Air gold farm. Now, if you are a rogue, this is a rogue specific gold farm. What you're going to be wanting to do here is you're going to be wanting to make your way over towards the Legion Dalaran. Inside your class order hall, you'll have a lovely little genie right at the back of the instant of the class order hall, who will actually provide you with the initial quest lines. This is to farm up coins of air, and they can be traded in for a few different types of items. This can be a few cosmetic items for your rogue. However, the ones of note are the Sneaky Marmot and the Dig Rat. These two battle pets can actually be bought for 10,000 of each coins of air, and thus when you get 10,000 you have one battle pet to sell in the auction house. They can average anywhere from around about 8,000 to 20,000 gold for each different one, depending on your server. However, these are so easy to farm up, because all we have to do now is just jump over towards the Eye of 𝐆𝐀𝐿 if you want to farm this up. The reason you pick Eye of 𝐆𝐿𝐿 is because you have a ton of humanoid mobs inside of there. It's instance resettable, judging by that, and that means that when we're actually going into the actual zone of the dungeon, you can farm these up by pickpocketing all of the mobs for coins of air. You'll receive different types of artifacts that will then immediately convert into coins of air, and I like to track them in my backpack just for ease of use. However, if you are going to go do this, then be prepared that you're not actually going to get a gold value so specifically from the actual farm, unless you slay the mobs after you've pickpocketed them. This is actually quite a nice little uptick, because some of the Legion green items actually go for a decent amount of gold because of their cosmetic appearance, and it just works out really well in the grand scheme of things with that. Overall, this is a very lovely gold farm, especially for you gold makers out there who just want to try something a little bit different, and these two battle pets from the Coins of Air work out really well for that. Jumping in at number 3, we have the Dungeon of the Razer Fang Crawl. Coming in with this one, we have the Staff of Shade coming in at 2,222 gold, the Mantle of Thieves 11,969 gold, the Wolf Claw Gloves 8,432, the Avenger's Armor 10,922, the Pugilist's Braces for 16,000 gold, the Plains Ring for 998 gold, the Vendetta for 12,891. This is the most common item I generally get myself specifically. The Sword of Decay, which goes for around about 11,000 gold, the Slag Hammer 8,998 gold, and the Phasian's Old Greatsword coming in at 11,339 gold. These transmog items are very decent for sell rates, especially when it comes towards old school transmog, and that's why Razer Fang Crawl is such an easy gold farm. For me personally, I just bomb in there and only head up towards the first massive group of mobs, burn them down with the boss, and then I just jump out, check obviously if any of the chests are unlockable. This is better done if you are a rogue, because you have a chance of getting like recipes like the star belt, which is a nice little uptick for this gold farm, and a load of other different types of transmog items that come along with this gold farm. This takes me roughly around about 20 to 22 minutes in order to complete, depending on how lazy I actually am farming all of this up. Other than that, this is just a really easy gold farm for the week, especially with you transmog farmers out there. And let's move on to number 4. Now, coming in at number 4, we have the raid of Ulir. Ulir is a great gold farm, especially if you are an engineer, because the first boss is actually be able to be engineered, so to speak. You can deconstruct him with your engineering and then gain a load of free mats. I used to do this quite a lot when I was doing my mechanized chopper craft quite regularly, and this also goes with the other boss as well. Other than that, the different types of battle pets you actually gain from this is the Magma Rageling, the Ironbound Proto Whelp. That one's great at level 25 to sell on. And the Runeforged Servitor, the Sanctum Cub, the Winter Rageling, the Snaplasher, Geo R4 on Ultra Tonk. Yeah, that was a bit of a mouthful. The Creeping Tentacle as well. Those battle pets can actually be sold on the auction house for an okay amount of gold. Honestly, I would just level them to 25, except the Snaplasher. All of the others tend to sell rather well at 25 and for a lot more gold. But Snaplasher I don't really bother with, because that one doesn't really go for that much. However, when it comes towards Ulir, it will take you a little bit longer in order to clear for the week. This is one of the longer of the raids. However, there is a ton more trash mobs in there, and you can get in a load of different types of transmog items along with this in order to actually bolster out your characters. This is just a great little gold farm in order to gain some nice little upticks, and if you do it on 25 man heroic, you have a chance, 1% chance of getting Mimrom's head mount as well if you are a mount collector. The transmog items in question, obviously with this gold farm, is Northrend specific, and those transmog items tend to sell a little bit slower than most others. However, they go for a little bit more gold, so it kind of balances out in the grand scheme of things. However, I will still go with a cap and don't sell everything all at once. I generally sell things over 2,000 to 5,000 gold depending on the expansion. For me, recommendation for Wrath of the Lich King, I go for anything over 5,000 gold because it generally sells slower and I want to get my money's worth. Other than that, at number 5, we have the Felcloth farm within Felwood. What you're going to be wanting to do here is you're going to be wanting to go to the western side of the map, and literally the western side of the map, to go over towards the Jadenar Legionnaires. These mobs generally have the best chance of Felcloth, and Felcloth generally sells for a decent chunk of gold. As well as that, you also have a chance of gaining a lot of transmog items to sell on the auction house along with this. There is a ton of different types of transmog items and or recipes from the open world in this particular zone that sell for a decent chunk of gold. This was primarily a transmog gold farm that I would do quite regularly. However, with the amount of Felcloth that actually drops from this, it was nice to actually find this again in my old logbook, and just wanted to showcase this as it provides you with probably the most amount of Felcloth I have had in quite some time. I may have to update Worth It for Felcloth farming, as there is no dedicated gold farm for Felcloth, so be prepared for that update. Other than that, with this one, you're just going to gain a wide variety of different types of transmog items. Obviously, benchmark it before you sell them on, and with the recipes, it can vary for tons of these. You can even get like the Frostweave Robe, Dazzling Mithril Rapier, and loads of different types of recipes to sell on the auction house. Generally speaking, if I get a recipe, I'm just going to sell it regardless, because people will buy them. Overall, it's not like transmog where you have to be super picky and or specific, and that is why I like this little gold farm. Following on to that, at number 6, we have the Shovel Tusk Flank. Now, this one is located within Northrend, and this is also in the Howling Fjord specifically. What you're going to be wanting to do is find the Shovel Tusks. They're pretty much everywhere. However, I like to go to this area on the map in order to farm them up most effectively. They come in massive packs, and you can burn them all down really easily with a nice little AoE ability if your character is at a decent level. The great thing about this gold farm is you're farming for the meat to sell on the auction house. However, you do get a lot of old world transmog, and if you bring a skinner, you can skin it for Borean leather, which means that you have 3 different types of farms: a meat farm, a skinning farm, and a transmog farm, all in one. This is why I like this gold farm, as it has a load of the starting Northrend greens with a load of unique appearances, which you can then sell them on the auction house. You've got the leathers with Borean leather, and you've also got the Shovel Tusk Flank for this specific gold farm. This just all around works well because it's got fast selling items and low selling items, and it just works out really well if you're wanting to go for that variety, if you are willing to do that gold farm overall. Coming in at number 7, we have the Dungeon of Zulak. Now, this one is just a staple transmog gold farm, and I want to cover pretty much every different type of farm with this series, so Zulak is one of them. Coming in with notable items is obviously the glorious leg plates, 24,498 gold on my server, and you also get the Jade Fire set as well from that. That means like the chest piece, the gauntlets, all rounding very well with that. Other different types of ones are the black metal cape, the spell shock leggings, the runed ring, the brain lash, gut wrencher, the bloodletter scalpel, the minotaur, the eye gouger, witch doctor's cane, flame incinerator, and troll protector. These items sell rather well, but bear in mind the runed ring doesn't really sell that much or very fast at all. So if you get that one, you can just D it or vendor it. It doesn't matter with that one. But all of the others tend to sell rather well in the general scope of the transmog that you are gaining from this. You gain a load of different types of sets, and what I like to do is I like to bomb it through and go all the way around towards the witch doctor. I gather up all of the mobs there, burn it down, dreamwalk in and out of the instance, then reset and run in. I do not forget to click the graves. They give additional mobs when you're actually running it through, and that means more loot if there's more mobs gathered while you're doing this. This is just another little way in order to optimize that gold farm to just get a little bit more gold for your time invested. This takes me roughly around about 40 minutes in order to complete without a speed set, and if you have a speed set, it generally will take you around about 30 odd minutes depending on how fast you actually are. Now, coming in at number 8, and one gold farm that I don't talk about all that much, and that is Blackwing Descent Raid. You can only do this with 1 time per week per character, and that means that you have a chance of getting a couple of different types of battle pets. This is the Discarded Experiment, currently going for around about 3,613 gold. The Rattlejaw Battle Pet going for around about 4,873 gold. The Tiny Tron going for around about 2,248 gold. Those ones are pretty dang good, and it comes to a total at this moment in time of 7,137 gold at level 1. So if you literally just looted it today, it will come to that value. However, if you boost them up to level 25, mainly the Discarded Experiment, you will actually be able to get a lot more gold. This one generally like triples in value at level 25. Don't ask me why, I don't know. It's just, yeah, it does it and it sells. So don't forget to do that. If you're doing this gold farm, it will take you roughly around about 10 minutes. Managed to do this in like no time at all on my Demon Hunter, and being conservative with a 10-minute run for 7,137 gold, that's pretty dang good if you can get some of these battle pets when it comes towards time versus gold earned over that time. It just works out really well. It's a very short gold farm, and you can do it on multiple characters per week. and that just works out really well if you're trying to just bolster the amount of gold you are actually getting. Other than that, simple, easy, quick gold farm for anyone to do this week. Coming in at number 9, we have the Volatile Water 5-man gold farm. Typically what you're going to be wanting to do is make a group. Obviously, for a group farm, you'll be wanting to get 5 of these guys, and then you'll be wanting to position them literally like this on the map right now to show you all positions for your characters. What you're going to be ideally wanting to do is make up a macro of /tar, /tar, cast, moonfire if you are druids. This works better if you're druids because you can mount up and run over to the next ones. What you're typically wanting to do is just burn down as many of these mobs as possible because they're force respawnable. The more mobs you can slay, the more loot you will get and the more volatile water you will get. Do not forget to use the potion of treasure finding, as this will provide you with more gold overall, and generally speaking we have just added that into the Worth It beta in order to actually value this for an upcoming update. The beta version that is still a little bit buggy is obviously on the Patreon. If anyone is on there, you can check that out. However, generally speaking, it goes for a lot more gold than you would doing it solo. With a 5-man gold farm, this just works out really well for just making decent amount of gold that will sell fast because they're all materials that you're going to get from this. The transmog items that you loot from this are generally not going to sell very much, so I would just either DE them for hypnotic dust, or you can sell them onto the vendor, so to speak. From that, let's move on to our last gold farm at number 10, which is the Mojo Battle Pet. Now, what you're going to be wanting to do with this gold farm is that you can only run it 1 time per day per character. That means if you have a load of ults, you can run it more times per day, obviously, but if you have 1 character, you can only run it once per day because it's a heroic dungeon and it has to be on heroic. What you're going to be wanting to do is go into Zulak, which is in the Ghostlands. Here you're going to be wanting to farm up all of the mobs. I generally take out all of the bosses so the timer is off, and then I will burn down all of the trash mobs. Be prepared to not kill any critters. This is crucial for this gold farm. What you're going to be wanting to loot is the 𝐆𝐀𝐌𝐄 hex sticks. You can either buy them off the auction house for a decent chunk of gold, which generally speaking, if you've got any left over from this gold farm, just sell them on the auction house. And overall, what you're going to be wanting to do is you're going to be wanting to make a macro up of /tar, forest frog, or forest for me, and then /use 𝐆𝐀𝐌𝐄 hex stick. You're going to be wanting to use the 𝐆𝐀𝐌𝐄 hex sticks on the critter battle pets for the forest frogs, turning them into their human NPCs. Some of these guys become vendors and you can buy some stuff that give you like 30 gold if you open up a cracked bone or anything like that. But realistically, there is a mob in there that one of those tree frogs can turn into the Mojo Battle Pet, who will jump straight into your pet journal. So be prepared for that. Mojo Battle Pet varies from anywhere from around about 7,000 all the way over towards 20,000 gold for this particular battle pet, and overall if you're trying to farm this up, this will work out incredibly well for you, especially boosting it at level 25 where it will sell a little bit faster than most and it will go for a hell of a lot more gold overall. The Mojo Battle Pet is something I've talked about in the past and it's actually one of the best performing videos I've actually ever done as well. But overall, the Mojo Battle Pet is just a good little gold farm. It doesn't take that long in order to complete, and you can do that once a day per character, and that works out really well if you're trying to build out a nice stockpile of battle pets. Other than that, that is everything I have to say for today. If you want to check out any more gold making resources or video content, early access video content, then please feel free to go over towards the Patreon with the Worth It beta on there. Other than that, have an awesome rest of the day and I shall see you in the next video, which will be soon.